The citizens of Heath are about to choose a new council member for Place 1, and both candidates are here in the bunker because it's that time again. Time for some straight talk. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is a special edition of The Bunker Bob Show. Greetings, thrill seekers, music lovers, conversationalists from across the fruited plains of the great state of Texas. I am your host, Bunker Bob Steinhagen, bringing you an in-depth look at the two candidates running for Heath City Council Place 1. I'm grateful to have you watching today on the Bunker Cam via Rumble, YouTube, or Facebook. And welcome my podcast listeners who are out walking, driving in their cars, or wherever they're listening via Spreaker, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, or Podcast Addict, just to name a few. Well, this is the fifth election season that I have held these forums, which provides candidates the opportunity to put their best foot forward, and is why, as I have always done, along with the invitation to participate, each candidate received a copy of the questions to help them decide if they want to participate, which also helps ensure that you'll only hear from serious candidates that are willing to answer hard questions. Now, rather than trying to cover countless questions that limit candidates to short-form answers, I focus on 10, including one that allows each candidate to speak to issues that may go unaddressed, all without time constraints so we can drill down on each issue. However, when a candidate goes especially long or meanders off topic, and sometimes they do, it will be edited down for time while ensuring that the key points remain. Through the magic of video, the illusion that both candidates are in studio at the same time is created, even though each candidate sat down with me for a one-on-one interview, which is edited together to make it look like they're together. This is why I will ask follow-up questions of one candidate, but not the other, and why the candidates do not respond to one another's answers. In fact, the first time either candidate will have heard their opponent's responses will be at the time of this broadcast. Now, before we begin, I let each candidate know that they can re-answer or restate anything they say because the purpose of this forum is to allow them to be the best that they can be. Now, this is edited to alternate who speaks first and last on each question, and to determine who I begin with, I ask each candidate to pick a number between 1 and 100.
17.
17, and the number is 55.
52.
52, and the number is, got a different one for every race. 55. Wow, that is really good. Since Cindy Horne came closest, I'll introduce her first. Cindy is an entrepreneur, community leader, and proud native Texan. She's passionate about preserving the family-friendly charm that makes Heath so special. Cindy is committed to advocating for the values that have made our community a great place to live and raise a family. As a military spouse, Cindy's life has taken her away from Texas multiple times, following her husband's service, honorable service, I should say. But 6 years ago, she was thrilled to return home and continue her dedication to serving her state and local community. Since then, Cindy has been a strong voice for conservative values in local government, fighting to ensure that our community remains a place where families can flourish. As Rockwall County Precinct Chair and member of the Heath Board of Adjustments, Cindy has gained valuable insight into the challenges facing Heath and Rockwall County residents and is determined to make a meaningful difference for local families. In addition, Cindy is a member of the Rockwall County Chamber of Commerce and serves on the board of the Rockwall County Republican Women's Club. Cindy and her husband, Garth, and what did you say about him? Garth?
No voice, no money.
No voice.
Just like Brooks, though.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. Well, Cindy and Garth have only been newlyweds practically, only 32 years. So maybe they'll make it. We'll see. They have 3 children who share the love and commitment for their country as their parents do. Their son, Garrett, is a software developer and an Army reservist. Now get this. Both daughters, Reagan and Kennedy, love the names, by the way, graduated from the United States Air Force Academy, and they are currently serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. Now, which armed forces are they serving?
So Reagan's serving in the Air Force.
Okay.
And Kennedy is serving in the Space Force. Go Guardians.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And how is that different? And what exactly are they doing there in the Space Force?
So what's interesting is we always tease Kennedy because all of our family has military experience. We tease her that she's not in the real military because she's working in like a project management role. She's an acquisitions officer. They acquire satellites and they do fancy things with them all up in space. So
wow.
Yeah, she
that
loves
is
it.
Tremendous. Your family picture looks like you made it up. I mean, it is so perfect. I've got to tell you. It's a beautiful, beautiful family.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. A friend of mine took them for us over Christmas, and we were just so thrilled to have all of my kids plus all of their spouse, 2 spouses, and one that will be a spouse in September. So,
wow, congratulations!
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate
the Bible talks about a quiver that is full, and how blessed you are. And boy, you are sure blessed.
I am incredibly blessed.
Yeah.
I remember my husband and I high-fiving each other when they all left for college and were all out on their own, and just feeling so grateful that they turned out to be the young people that they did. Despite our, we did the best we could, but every parent makes mistakes. But we, of course, were certainly led by our Father who helped us, get through those tough years.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'd love to make some of the mistakes you made, because that's a beautiful, beautiful family.
Thank you.
Now, Cindy has a bachelor's degree in history and political science, as well as a master's degree in education. The Hornes are members of Lakeshore Church, where they live out their commitment to faith and family values. Cindy, it is great to have you on the show today.
It is so great to be here. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely. And we're excited to talk about things that are important to Heath.
Amen.
Sure.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Well, now let's meet Lea Lashley. Now, Lea is a dynamic and accomplished professional whose career and community impact reflect an unwavering commitment to excellence and service. With over 2 decades of experience, including countless significant mergers and acquisitions, Lea has cemented her reputation as a leader in strategic marketing, business development, and influencer management, holding key roles at esteemed organizations like 7-Eleven, ever heard of it? Hotels.com, I'm sure most people have heard of that, RealPage, and Mavly. At RealPage, Lea was instrumental in steering the company through transformative mergers and acquisitions, culminating into its historic $10 billion acquisition by Thoma Bravo, a landmark moment in the prop tech industry. Most recently at Mavly, Lea has spearheaded innovative influencer marketing strategies, that's a mouthful, bridging brands and consumers through authentic, data-driven campaigns, while leading her team through the company's recent acquisition by later a $250 million endeavor from Summit Partners. Lea's entrepreneurial spirit shines through as a local business owner in the auto repeat industry, serving the Rockwall, Kaufman, and Collin County communities. Her work is complemented by an impressive history of altruistic endeavors. As a dedicated advocate for positive change, Lea played a pivotal role in establishing the Go Live Together Coalition, a group formed to protect the global events industry during the economic challenges of COVID-19. The coalition rallied to safeguard an industry critical to jobs, economic recovery, and community well-being, exemplifying Lea's ability to galvanize others toward impactful outcomes. Beyond her professional achievements, she is deeply engaged in her community, volunteering at Holy Trinity by the Lake Episcopal Church, where she helps lead their music ministry, contributing as a school volunteer and PTO member in Heath, and supporting local initiatives for organizations like Helping Hands, and in volunteering for the City of Rockwall's Main Street Program Initiative, which was part of the National Main Street revitalization efforts by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. She also is the proud wife of a retired Dallas police officer, a role that further fuels her dedication to fostering safe and vibrant communities. Together with her husband and 2 children, Chase and Cash, 10 and 7 respectively, who attend Amy Parks, Lea embodies the values of family, unity, resilience, and service. Lea, it is great to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much.
Well, the first question is an easy one. Why are you running? Lea?
Well, I moved to Heath 7 years ago. I actually was an old neighbor of yours. I was right around the corner on 550, and I was out there in a temporary home for 3 years, but when the housing market fell out, we were there for 13, and we started having kids, and we were looking for, do we make a move? Do we stay here? The school system wasn't the best in the community we were in, so we decided, let's move to Heath. Let's keep our kids close to home. Let's be a part of the community. Let's put them in local schools versus staying out here and feeling like we had to drive into Dallas or another place for a private school to get the education we wanted for our kids. We found what we wanted in Heath, and we found that because I'm a cradle Episcopalian, and I found the only Episcopal church here in this area. It was right in the middle of Heath. And we got to know it was being part of the church and having our kids there and getting really involved. Learned about the community, learned about the schools, learned and found our house. I could walk to my church. I'm that close. I got really lucky. And I just started getting involved. We moved into our home, and about 6 weeks after we moved into our home, the property next door to us kind of went up in front of P&Z and City Council to be rezoned commercial. And that's when I immediately started realizing that you can't just hide under a rock whenever you get those notices in your mailbox that say, hey, this is happening, it's on the table for discussion, please come share your voice. And that was 6 months after we moved in, and I haven't stopped attending and getting involved and listening to the issues that may or may not impact me ever since. So that's why I'm running. It started 7 years ago.
So what prompted you to jump in the race? Is it because it's an open seat?
Yeah, a few different reasons. So we spent a little over the last year really keeping our eyes on what was happening across the street from me at the Perry property, what's historically known as the Perry property. There were a lot of ideas around the type of developer that should come in and bring in homes. The Toll Brothers initially reached out to us and had everybody in the community out in Buffalo Creek to the clubhouse and showed us their plan. It was very exciting. And over time, we realized how unexciting it was and how there were a lot of things being proposed that did not fall in place with the comprehensive plan. And I'm back on record 7 years ago at my first city council meeting talking about how the comprehensive plan is a key reason why we did choose to buy and invest our life and our home and our time in Heath. And there were so many elements of what was being proposed that were not in the plan, that were being skirted right at the line. And we really felt like we needed to get more neighbors involved with what was actually happening. So we kind of started this grassroots campaign for getting all of the neighbors involved and then pushing on planning and zoning and city council members on every little point that was being brought to task from the Toll Brothers as a developer, and then how that didn't line up to what was happening in the comprehensive plan and why that was an issue. And so ultimately we got it blocked for now. We know it could still come back, but I mean, it was over a year long effort. And I think that's the most involved I've been in the last 7 years. It's been kind of, I've been involved in several other initiatives, but that one has truly been kind of a remarkable outcome for what they were trying to do.
It really was.
It was. It impacted, our safety. It impacted the number of people in our town. It impacted our water. It impacts, our schools. And there weren't comprehensive plans along that development that addressed each one of those things that essentially are a domino effect. Whenever you bring in a new development, a new community, I mean, this goes beyond just putting a new restaurant in town.
Exactly.
These are it was originally 115 homes, lives, people, times however many people are in that home, times their cars, times everything else that they put a strain on when it comes to infrastructure, the community, and just Heath is not set up to support that right now or even long term. And so I feel like I really do bring this point of view and some expertise into like the future decision making, so we can like lay the groundwork to do to do more. Track homes in Heath, especially in that property, is not part of the comprehensive plan, but the comprehensive plan is in place, and there are ways we can develop Heath. We got one shot. We got one shot to do it right. And so I want to be a part of that and use my voice and knowing what my neighbors know, knowing that they trust me to kind of speak on their behalf as well, get that to the forefront and use that in helping make the best decisions for Heath.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cindy?
Well, I'm running because I love Heath. My husband and I lived in Rockwall when we first moved here. We aspired to live in Heath. We began looking. We were so drawn to its charm, its upscale feel, the open spaces. And so when we moved, I was just thrilled to become a part of this community. I immediately applied to be on the Board of Adjustments, or actually applied to be on a board. I was chosen for the Board of Adjustments and just immediately wanted to get involved. Unfortunately, after I got involved and I started to see what was going on in the city, I became a little concerned. We had almost accepted the fact that we were going to have to replace our plants every year because of the water shortage. But then last summer, we had the catastrophic failure of a computer system in Heath that regulated the water, and we had a boil water notice. And after that, I said, I'm going to find out what's going on here. I started going to city council meetings and really uncovered a lot of things that concerned me. And I said, I have the skill set to be able to help solve some of these problems. I run a business. I have advocated through my job, have advocated on the state, national, and local level for legislation. And I really feel like I can bring those skills to Heath and help solve some of these problems that we deserve better in our community.
Well, tell me a little bit more about your business, so that
Sure.
kind of give people a sense of what gives you the tools to be able to make these changes.
Sure. So I run a political consulting firm.
Oh, okay.
I focus on political fundraising, and I have candidates all across the country. And so when a candidate decides to run for office, they usually get somebody that can advise them on how to run their campaign. And then they call me to say, Cindy, can you coach them on how to ask for money? So I will take a candidate and we will sit over a Zoom call, and they will make calls and then after they hang up with that call, I will give them some coaching on what they could do better, make a specific ask. We also provide them with a clean, curated list from Republican sources that gives them information like who have they donated to before, what is their occupation, and basically helps them to feel more comfortable on that call and making that political ask. I also I do some consulting where I advise people that are in government on how to navigate certain situations, almost like a marketing specialist. I manage a staff, I manage a budget,
Okay.
and of course, politics is just an interesting world in and of itself. I mean, I'm solving problems on the daily, whether it's for candidates who are fundraising, candidates that are running, whether it's through personnel issues, budgeting issues, managing when, a candidate may not be able to pay. We have to work with that situation. So I just understand how to problem solve in that regard. In regard to advocating, so I spent 2 sessions working in the Virginia legislature with one of my clients who was a new member of the House of Delegates. And I learned so much about legislation, what it takes a bill to come forward and pass. I think in Heath, because of our unique and expansive problems, we need somebody who understands the value of relationships and how important those relationships are into being a flourishing city. So I know that I bring that ability to the table.
Very good. Well, though the race for mayor and city council is technically a nonpartisan one, which political party best reflects your values and why? Well, Cindy, I I think I know this one. You've already kind of let the cat out of the bag. Yeah.
I am a very proud Republican.
Yeah. Why? What draws you to the Republican Party?
I have been a conservative since I was 8 years old. I sat beside my dad watching Peter Jennings on the nightly news. I am a child of the Reagan Revolution. I grew up in a time where there was respect for each other, and Reagan was such a strong leader. I mean, he inspired me. I've named a child after him, but it's
I noticed.
yes, but it's not just those young experiences. I've always felt a desire to lead. I ran for political office when I was in elementary school. I always wanted to be on the student council. I wanted to try to solve the problems that we were facing. So in my adult life, I worked to help George W. Bush get elected in Texas in 1994 when he was running for governor, and I was part of the Bell County Republican women at the time.
Very good.
Moving to Rockwall, I saw a need. I was approached that there was a need for a precinct chair in order to drive voter turnout in Precinct 3C, and I said, that is a job I know that I can do without hesitation. I ran for that seat, won, and have been proudly serving. And that is what led me through talking to hundreds of people at the doors, led me to this race for city council. And, it's not another title for me. This is important that we solve the problems that Heath is facing. And we have not been doing that. So, yes, my values are conservative, and I am incredibly proud of that. And I will live that out as a city council member.
I don't know if you saw, but in the Oval Office, if you're looking at President Trump's desk, to his right is a painting of Reagan. I just saw that last week for the first time, and so he's not only had a profound influence on so many, but the fact that Donald Trump would put his portrait in the Oval Office so close to him says a lot.
Yeah, I think Reagan impacted a generation of people, me included, and I am proud that President Trump recognizes that and recognizes the leader that Ronald Reagan was.
Just as an aside, I don't know if you sense this, but I certainly do. I remember I'm a Reagan part of the Reagan Revolution as well, but I remember how much hope there was, and everything just seems so good. And it hasn't been that way for quite a while until now. I feel like since President Trump has been elected, it seems like everything just is going so well. There's so much hope.
There's an incredible amount of hope. And I'll even say, I think I can differentiate 2016 from now. I mean, there's even more hope now in the things that we're doing to clean up our government. We've had years, and ever since Iraq, ever since, or should I say 9/11, I feel like there were just years in there where we were struggling as a country, to find ourselves again and find who we are. And I after, seeing the president almost lose his life and stand up and say, shake his fist and say, I'm going to fight for this country. It was reminiscent of after Reagan got shot and recovered. I mean, it's incredible.
It really is.
Yeah.
Very good. Lee?
I don't know if I even fit into a political party label anymore these days. I grew up Republican. I grew up cradle Episcopalian, Texan through and through, small community. And I found the older that I get, I do know enough that there are good decisions that come from both sides. So I have voted on both sides of the fence, if you will. I like that I am running in a nonpartisan election because I'm really not interested in, nor do I have aspirations to continue a political long career. Maybe that will change as me being elected and being a part of that. I do see that I have a lot of strengths that I could take out on a state and a national level, but that's just not anything that's ever been on my bingo card, if you will. And the thing that does strike me the most about this race is that it isn't Democratic or Republican or a Green Party, a Libertarian or anything. It's about, being a passionate member of the community who has the community's best at heart. And it's not about where do you sit on a political side of the fence to get these decisions made. But it is respecting that those strains are on the community from the county and the state, the national levels when it comes to like coming in and doing different work in Heath. I know that there are several members of council now who've been going and advocating in Austin for us about different ways that Austin wants to come in and kind of impose different bills and have us add different types of housing to our community. The list goes on and on. That's really important, but I don't have a political side that I would stick to today, especially for this race, because it's not a bipartisan race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, the next question is, what is your vision for the city of Heath? Lee?
I had mentioned a little before that the city is about halfway built out. There's lots of green spaces. I would love for Heath to be able to welcome additional communities that fall within our comprehensive plan. Communities that even have planning for like our parks and trails. I've been a big part of the PATH project, the PATH program. That was one of the things that was missing from this Toll Brothers plan as well. But the big piece of this is that we don't have the water infrastructure in place to support a lot of this growth. So it's balancing, we will eventually get that solved. That will eventually get solved. The work is starting to be done now by community leaders, and there are plans put in place, starting with what we're even seeing over here at the town park, right, which will be done in November. We're starting to make the right strides to prepare for that. It's like, do we need to prepare, or do we need to build on all of it right now? And it's, just doing these staged planned growth for Heath. Let's bring in the businesses that we want to go and patronize every day. Like, I would love to just stay in Heath for everything all the time. I did struggle recently. I was donating a gift card for an organization, and I was like, I want to keep it local to Heath. And there were so many people donating gift cards, wanted to keep it local to Heath, that we almost had every single business accounted for.
Wow.
It's
that's
a nice
awesome.
problem to have.
It is. It's great.
But, who else are we going to bring in that will contribute to the style and aesthetics and the spirit of our community? What does that look like? There's a lot of opportunity to impact what that could be. There's some exciting restaurant developments coming out off of the Chris Cooney, the backside off behind Tom Thumb, that are coming in. We don't have a whole lot of space to plan out and develop it, but love to see more homes come in at some point that aren't tract homes. Love to see more interesting restaurants and services that our immediate community can utilize instead of driving to Rockwall or Horne or even Dallas. So that would be ideal, I think.
Very good.
Yeah.
Cindy, how would you answer this?
Well, when you talk about vision, it takes me back, here we go, to Ronald Reagan and his last Oval Office speech, a shining city on the hill. I look at Heath as a shining gem in Rockwall. That is what motivated us to move there. And I think it's wonderful, but it could be so much better. I envision this wonderful PATH project, which my husband and I pay into, we pay into every single month on our water bill. We pay into the PATH project, and I would encourage anyone who's listening to do that. It is building a network of paths throughout the city that are going to connect the city. I see parks where children are playing, baseball fields where children can play ball and be kids. I see boutique businesses. I see upscale restaurants. I see us building a tax base for our city so that we don't have to pass that tax burden on to our citizens in the future. So I am super excited about the prospects that we have for Heath.
Excellent. Well, how often do you attend city council meetings, and what have you learned from that experience? Cindy, you said that you have attended council meetings in kind of your bio. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I originally started attending sometime after I got involved with the Board of Adjustments, and to learn a little more, make sure that I understood what I needed to understand about some of the decisions that they were making so I could be serve better on the board. And then we had the catastrophic failure of the water system, and I started attending more frequently. And what I found was a city council that is extremely divided. I found two different factions that were constantly fighting against each other, to the point that one faction would get up in the middle of a council meeting and leave and rant about not getting their way. And then I saw 3 new members of the council doing everything they could to include visiting other communities to find solutions for our water problem. And going to those meetings was disappointing. As a citizen, I thought this legislative body should be working together to make Heath a great place, not all the infighting that was happening. I also saw city personnel that was having constant turnover and seemed incredibly disillusioned. So we need to bring that council together. We need to all work together. You know, you get more honey with happy bees. I know that's not the saying, but we need to make sure that our city is, that the people that work there feel like they're supportive, and our council needs to support each other. And I want to be part of those solutions.
Cindy, you're not talking about a consensus council, are you?
No,
okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so it's okay to disagree.
Of course.
Is it the manner in which people are disagreeing? What is it?
It is the way they represent themselves, and storming out of a meeting is not an adult way to deal with problems. I don't care what the situation is. You can deal with that behind closed doors later in an executive session, but to storm out of a meeting because you're not feeling like you're getting your way is unacceptable. And that's my opinion. Other people may think that's perfectly acceptable. I do not. I think the time that they spend there should be about solving problems for the city. I also don't feel like we should be debating what a fence should look like for 3 hours. When I can't water my yard, when there's a catastrophic failure of infrastructure, when the roads are crumbling, it's wrong. We need not a consensus council, but a council that can debate the issues, take a vote, and have respect for each other.
Love it. Lee, how about you?
I would say that I'm at least one a month, or a planning and zoning committee. For this last year, whenever I was really on top of the Perry property, I was at every single one, and if I wasn't at one, we had representation within our community of our spokesperson. So I try to attend every single thing that I possibly can. I'm looking forward to planning and zoning tomorrow night, actually. But one of the things I'm super excited about is that they're now getting the technology in there to be able to stream these live. So people will be able to attend no matter where you are. I mean, they're recorded, obviously, and then Aaron does a really nice little recap on YouTube in the days following. But not everybody has the chance to listen to a meeting that might go to midnight or 1 a.m, which happened a lot this last year, in particular around the Perry property. So, let's make them more accessible. Let's make them something that you can sit back and listen to, regardless of if you're in town or can you even leave your house. There are several people in our community can't physically leave the home for whatever reason. Maybe they got family obligations or they physically cannot leave to go attend these meetings. I think it's going to, having this tech in place is going to help just make it more accessible to everybody in Heath. And I think that's pretty exciting.
What have you learned from those experiences?
I've definitely learned a lot about like our different ordinances in place and kind of how that feeds back into our comprehensive plan and how it impacts our community. I've definitely gotten to meet a lot of our neighbors that live in different parts of Heath. You've got people, for example, who've been here since the 80s who were in the first communities established along the lake. And then you have new communities like the Fairways of Heath who are still being developed today. And they have like these different experiences from like maintaining their home and, being a part of the community growth. So getting to kind of see the both sides of that coin and how people approach living here. So I've gotten to learn a lot about that. I've learned a lot about how the community or how our The city council leaders are involved at both the county and the state levels to impact change, advocating on behalf of our city and getting involved, and also, putting pressure where it's needed on different organizations to get what we need to protect our citizens. So that's been, I think, a big eye opener, how all the pieces fit.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Well, the one issue that concerns every citizen in Rockwall County is the exponential growth, which includes housing, commercial development, traffic congestion, and of course, growth in government, which means higher taxes, and is why we're going to tackle each in turn. So let's start with the explosive growth in housing, like master plan communities or multifamily apartments and townhomes. Do you think the city is on the right track when approving these new developments, and are they contributing to or taking away from the lifestyle that citizens of Heath desire? And why or why not? Lee?
So I worked in multifamily tech space for 7 years at RealPage and got to sort of be a fly on the wall to see how this massive development or like high density development impacts communities. And I 100% knew at the time, that was when when I worked there, was when we were making our way to Heath. I knew for sure I wanted to live in an area that didn't have high density housing, that didn't have multifamily, because I also see the impacts that has on a community from a safety perspective. I mean, going right back to my police ties with my husband, and seeing how that police coverage, fire coverage, medical, impacts the communities when the planning isn't there, when the investment isn't there, and those public, safety type organizations aren't there. And I saw that Heath had that balance when we came here, and that there wasn't a plan to have multifamily growth in the city, that there had been a plan to try to do it in the past, and it had been overturned, thankfully. And how, it takes a community helping share their voices and their reasons why they don't want that, talking to city council, talking to planning, zoning, talking to our architectural boards, letting them know what their experience is and why, giving them more fuel to fight these things, to block these things, and to kind of help us on this path that ultimately gets reflected in the comprehensive plan. I thought it was really interesting. I think in the last couple of months, Jeremiah had put out a note around in the Heath newsletter.
Who's Jeremiah?
Jeremiah McClure, our mayor.
Okay.
Had put together a note around, hey, we've made X, Y, and D decisions for Heath, and they align with the comprehensive plan. And oh, by the way, a comprehensive plan is meant to be a guiding force, but it does need to be revisited every few years to give tweaks and kind of just update what was there based on the latest growth, the latest decisions we've made, what's impacting our community today, and let's constantly go back and give it a review. Let's add ordinances to it, any kind of revision that we might need that might apply today that didn't have a reason to apply 10 years ago, for example. So it was validating to read that and to see that statement there. It's definitely something I want to continue to get behind is, evaluate what's in the comprehensive plan. What has changed in our world? What has changed with our neighbors? What's changed with the new developments that have come in, or the new businesses that we need to make a tweak to the comprehensive plan? But, keeping that as like the guiding force has been, I think a really huge piece of maintaining this growth and maintaining it responsibly.
So do you, when you think about, currently it's 1 acre per house, or 1 developable acre per house.
Yeah, the SF-43.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So is there any time, do you see any way that you would make an exception to that? If a developer wanted to come in and they wanted to have a more high density than that?
We faced that with the Toll Brothers. Mm-hmm. And what it came down to is no. There are a lot of things that would have to go into that. Our roads, our water, and our public safety, our police and our fire that needs to be built into that we just do not have the infrastructure for today. And, can you actually build and create something like that for somebody in a way that's, not so crazy expensive you can't even afford to live here, or so cheap that we have like this influx of, low income housing here. We don't want that in Heath. I don't want that for Heath. And that may be a polarizing topic. And if it is, then I'm not your gal. And I mean, that's the way it is.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. I think voters wanted to know that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cindy, how would you answer this?
Well, my absolute answer to this is I am 100% opposed to high density development in any shape or form, whether it is condos, apartments, Section 8 housing. I am 100% opposed to that. My husband and I moved away from the harbor to the explosive growth of apartments everywhere to Heath so that we could get away from that. So there is no negotiation with me. I will vote against any project that brings high density development to the city. Any project.
The current standard is it 1 acre per
one
per
home, 1 acre, and I uphold that. That's in our comprehensive plan, and I absolutely uphold that.
Now, some would argue that, like with a development, for instance, a master plan development, it's an aggregate number where you can put 50 homes tightly together, and as long as the entire development is in the area of 1 acre. Where do you stand on that?
Oh, no, I am 100% against that. In fact, we just had something come up in Heath, the Perry property. They've been trying to sell it for a number of years. They most recently sold it or attempted to sell. Toll Brothers was going to develop that property. They had $1 million homes on 1 acre. They started out talking about how they were going to help us with infrastructure, put in a water well. And when it came before the council, they backed off on that, and our council unanimously voted that down. So I can tell you in Heath, we have extremely high standards for what we bring, and anything that involves any sort of high density that isn't one home on one entire acre, I am opposed to.
Bless you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man.
100%.
You're talking my language now.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Well, study after study shows that tax incentives don't pay off in real economic gains, but that hasn't stopped municipalities from offering tax breaks or even using taxpayer dollars to fund infrastructure projects as a way to attract commercial development in certain businesses. Now, this, of course, puts government in the position of picking winners and losers on the backs of taxpayers. So, where do you stand on this issue, and how should the city go about deciding when it's appropriate to use tax incentives like tax breaks or taxpayer-funded infrastructure projects to attract businesses and commercial development? Cindy?
I can tell you that existing residents should not pay for new development. Unequivocally. Economic growth comes from stable, business-friendly environments, low taxes, not big government. We want to make sure in Heath that we are investing our impact fees in order to be able to pay for these. We don't want any growth in big government. Our residents are taxed enough.
Amen. Lee?
I'm generally cautious about these things. I always want to make sure. I go back to what is the strategy behind it? What did they decide initially in the room? I just think we need to be careful about the long-term impact of any of those incentives and programs that we put in place. I think there's definitely a place for it. For me, any business that comes in, we can't just throw money at all of them. We need to focus on, the strength of our community. Our school's going to be able to withhold whatever we decide as far as, new residents coming in, a new community being built. Can our schools withstand it? Do we have the money to educate all those kids? I mean, I'm getting a front row seat to that right now with both my kids being in elementary school and have a long time to be part of our Rockwall ISD. So, I think about that. I think the things that make our town a desirable place to live, are we incentivizing the right kinds of businesses to come in to maintain that safety. I mean, like right now, I can walk all over my neighborhood. I can walk to several businesses within the community by virtue of where I live. And, you know, traffic's not great, but I still can cross the street safely. You know, I can walk anywhere in the neighborhood, even at night, and not have to worry about my personal safety. I can still send my kids to school, know that they're going to get the accommodations they need. I can drop them off in a timely manner because the parking and the traffic and the people situation is under control. I can get a lockdown notice from the school during the day and know our police officers there and the officer there on staff, they've got it. So, you know, those things get impacted if you don't monitor the incentives that you're giving to different businesses and organizations to come in, and I'm acutely aware of how that can happen. So those are the things that I think about long term and think that there's balance.
Excellent. Well, it seems like regardless of where you live, traffic congestion is getting progressively worse, which is beginning to have a real impact on the quality of life for many. What can the city do to improve this problem? Or more specifically, what will you do as council member to address the increased traffic congestion that's agonizing for so many? Lee, what do you think?
Oh my gosh, let's put speed bumps up everywhere. Let's put the lights up everywhere. No. So I was so excited and validated by the last few city council meetings and discussions around this. You know, that we have to play with TxDOT, and we have to play with the fact that the state only allows us to request different studies every couple of years. And the case with 550, that study, I think it was every 3 years. And the next time we can officially request any sort of a study that'll help us get closer to putting in a traffic light is September of this year. And the city council did vote unanimously to put forth every effort that we had available, every resource available to us to put, you know, pressure back in Austin on getting out here with the right kind of studies to make sure that we get a traffic light in place. They put together a kind of a quick and dirty sort of a budget around what that would cost us. There were a couple of experts in the room that talked about, I mean, ultimately to put in a traffic light at Rabbit Ridge and 550 is going to be $1 million. And there's a lot of other costs that go into that. So you need somebody to maintain it. We don't have the talent in Heath on staff to maintain that. So it's like, what are the relationships we're going to have with Rockwall or any other neighboring communities to get the right people out there to maintain that once it's here? And oh, by the way, if nothing's wrong and you're just flipping a switch because the light went out, that's $4,000 a pop. And it just goes up more if there's something really wrong. So those are all kinds of costs that we're all going to have to kind of weigh out, impacting Heath. I think that if you were to vote, just yes or no, do you think there needs to be a light here? I think you're going to win by a landslide that yes, there needs to be a light here. And then I think if it came back to the community and they said, something is going to have to give, I'm going to have to pay more somewhere in order to support this light, I think you would definitely find people who would say, I'll just pay for it. You know, I mean, if I had $1 million in the bank sitting there just to spend, I would pay for a lot of things like that in our community just to have it because it's necessary. I think there are a lot of people here who would do the same. So just knowing that, you know, city council is all on board to push every resource they have to hold the state accountable to give us what we need. And then in the meantime, potentially explore options for like, what do we do in the meantime? Because it's still going to take time to get it done. Can't be done overnight. What can we do to make sure that that's not the only intersection, right, that is under scrutiny right now for safety. It's not the only place where people are having bodily injury accidents, for example. So I love that everybody's on the same page to push that forward. I'm definitely a proponent for that. I would never do anything to inhibit somebody from putting all their resources behind getting those decisions made at the state level. But ultimately comes back to, you know, it's that planning ahead. It's looking forward. It's like the decisions we make today might not happen for a few years because you've got to you're dealing with the government. The government's always fast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Very good. Cindy, how about you?
Well, I will tell you that what I hear at the doors and what I live every day in my neighborhood is crumbling roads. Our road problems are so extensive in the city of Heath. So a priority for me is to address the concerns of those roads immediately. That to me, besides dealing with water, which our 3 new members of our council have really come up with some great ideas for, we need to address road concerns. And it is very important that we focus on that. But in addition to that, we have had a council that has sat on their hands and said, oh, no, we are not going to respond to any of this growth at all. We are not going to widen any roads because that will make people come. I hate to tell you, the people are here. They are here, and we have so much congestion on our roads. And let me tell you about 2 projects.
Okay.
There's a project that goes in McClendon Chisholm that is going to widen 550. It is going to stop at the city of Heath. And all of that, widened project is going to feed into the city of Heath and make our problems worse. And then let me tell you about another project on 740. Horne is widening 740 until you get to Heath Golf and Yacht, and it's stopping. All of those people are going to feed into Heath. I hate that these people are coming through and causing this congestion, but right now the congestion is only hurting the people of Heath, the people that live there, the people that, go to work. We have to do something to address that. I would love it if we didn't, but we do.
Very good. Very good. Well, President Trump initiated the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, which not only uncovered outrageous waste in our federal government, but also exposed an entirely new generation to the reality best articulated by President Reagan, who said that government is not the solution to our problems. Government is the problem. What is your philosophy about municipal government growth, and where do you draw the line between what constitutes an essential government service that warrants taxpayer funding and wasteful spending that should be prohibited? Cindy.
Okay. Critical infrastructure, safe, clean drinking water, safe, drivable roads, and public safety. Heath is the 7th safest city in the state of Texas.
Wow.
And we want
didn't
more.
know that.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
We want more. So, but we are so proud of that. Those are things that are critical that we need to support. Things that are not critical, any sort of entitlement program. And I know that's usually at the federal level, but you never know what could be
cities do it all the time.
Yeah. That is not our responsibility. The other thing is kickbacks to developers. That is not our responsibility. In fact, we are such a desired and sought after city. I feel like they should be helping us, just like we were requiring of Toll Brothers to help. They need to help us with the infrastructure, and they want to come here, and we can encourage them to do so, but they need to help us make sure that we are not passing that off to the citizens.
You almost sound like a free market conservative.
I just really believe that we are so overtaxed.
Yeah.
And I just really believe that we have to do something about that because we're hurting our middle class. We're hurting the majority of people. And it's unfair.
No complaints out of me on that one.
Yeah.
That's good. Very good. Thank you, Cindy.
Sure.
Lee.
Well, I think that I should just wear a T-shirt that says "Essential Services First." I go back to the police and the fire, our EMT services, and then of course our water. Anything that's vital for us to survive day to day. That's going to impact, our lives immediately. You turn off the water, and all of a sudden, everybody opens their doors and sticks their head outside and says, "What's going on?" That's how you get people's attention faster than anything else.
Yeah.
I was kind of giggling to myself whenever you mentioned President Reagan in there. I used to actually have a picture of him in my room growing up when I was a kid, and wrote him a lot of different letters. That's kind of how I first started learning about politics and government. And I think it's about, in that same spirit of him, being vigilant and identifying and eliminating wasteful spendings. finding out why there's been an increase in spend, like in particular, looking at the P&L for the city, and that there's been a big, multi-million dollar, I think it's been $2.5 or $3 million increase in P&L over the last couple of years. Like, where are these dollars going? Are we getting the right talent in place? Are we getting more of the right talent in place? In a lot of ways, Heath has grown, but the people who are running the city, who are paid, are need more help and more support. And that's, again, getting the right talent in place to help. Our city needs it. But also, it's like, who is doing what? Why is it impactful? Are they positioned to make the right decisions on behalf of our city? Are we paying them what they should be paid? I mean, do we need to do some sort of like leveling out exercises? Are they overpaid? Are they underpaid? What's happening? Do they have the resources? If they're out, Javier's out every single day. Does he have the resources he needs? Do people man the phones inside while he
Who's
goes?
Javier?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Javier he's the guy you call whenever somebody cut down a tree or
Code
there's a
enforcement.
leak or
He's
anything
code
else.
enforcement?
Yes, he's
Gotcha.
technically code enforcement.
Okay.
But does he need to be the one out on the streets? Does he need to be behind the phones calling people to get the right people in to help our community out? I don't know, but those are things that I think we need to be looking at and digging more into and finding out, like, what is the support that our staff needs? Is the right talent in place? Are they being paid adequately? What else do we need for this future planning staff-wise if we're going to continue to develop Heath? Like, what needs to happen? I don't see these conversations happening. I don't see it in our budgets. There's been a lot of growth really fast over the last couple of years in budget, growth in budget, and in the spending, and it's not glaringly obvious why and where and what do we have to show for it. So I think digging in there when it comes to budget time is going to be something that I'm very interested in doing. I did it for our church for a couple of years. It's part of my day job where I look at those things as well. And I know there's several other people also running, and that's kind of top of mind for them as well.
Love it. Well, property valuations have increased at such astronomical proportions that every city in Rockwall County has continually lowered the municipal tax rate year after year while still increasing revenue. Under what circumstances would you support an increase to the city's tax rate, and would you support an increase for the next fiscal year? Lee, how about you?
I was kind of thinking about this question and what I wrote down. I'll tell you what I wrote down, because there's other parts to this. There's definitely pressure to keep taxes low. And I think, homeowners feeling the pinch of these rising valuations and the huge tax bills as a result, myself included, we need to be mindful of that. But we can't ignore the city's needs. And we can't ignore the fact that we all do live in a community that continues to grow and be developed. And, there are essential services that need to be added to our community. And so there will be a rise just by virtue of that growth.
There'll be a rise in the tax rate?
I think there will be a rise here and there on our tax rate as by virtue of that growth and by virtue of us really trying to get the right infrastructure in place, especially our roads and our water. It's not forever. Like, we definitely are kind of incurring the wrath of like past poor decision making for the last 25 years in Heath. We're having to do something about it now. It's really critical. And but I think that things that maintain our quality of life in Heath, it's necessary. Water boil notices aren't good for families, right? I'm not going to go fight my home valuation and my tax rate when I know that those things are being solved, the water issues being solved. I'm doing something for my community right now that's going to impact our roads. But it's got to be weighted out. It's got to be balanced. So I think that's super critical to keep in mind.
So what about the next fiscal year? Do you if you were elected, would you vote for a tax rate increase?
I'm not really sure right now if it's necessary for this next fiscal. I did dive into the budget a little bit, and it looks like that definitely would need to come in the next, maybe not this one, but the next one. I haven't gotten to crunch the numbers enough to actually see if it's necessary immediately. I do see it happening in the future. I think it's inevitable. But I would need to kind of just crunch with the numbers and sit with them a little bit more. But I definitely, it's not something I take lightly at all. And want to weigh out all of the all the things that it impacts as a result of that right now. But from what I've seen so far, I could not make a decision on it today and vote on it without digging in a little bit more. But I do see it happening. If not this fiscal, the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Cindy, how about you?
Okay, so I know you're going to find this shocking, but
All right.
I would not support a tax increase. I mean,
You said I would think it shocking, but go ahead.
I feel like we have experienced in Rockwall County tremendous growth, which has increased our tax base. We have more people moving here. They are paying more money for their houses, and they are being taxed on that. And let me tell you a story. I was knocking doors along the waterfront in Heath, in an older neighborhood, and I encountered a gentleman in an older home who I said, what are the issues that concern you? And he said, Cindy, I cannot afford to live in my home anymore. The valuation of my home went from $400,000 to $1 million. I can't afford the taxes on that. And the only saving grace that man has is that his wife is disabled. And he is given a tax break because of that. Now, that is terrible. And I feel like our citizens should not be feeling that kind of burden. There should be reasonable solutions to people who have lived here forever, purchased their house, that their property value doesn't, that they don't get taxed out of the community.
Yeah, even if his taxes are capped at the tax rate, if the way the housing assessments have gone up so astronomically, they can only raise them. They can only hit you 10% each year. Well, This guy's probably looking at the next 20 years of continual tax increases, regardless of the tax rate increases, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So how could I justify raising a tax when we have people that are barely able to pay the taxes that they have?
Yeah.
And my job is to serve the entire community, not just a section of the community. It is my job to listen to what everyone has to say, see what their concerns are, and then vote accordingly as I see serving all of the people. So.
Yeah, very good. Well, are there any issues that we haven't talked about that you plan to address if elected? Cindy?
Okay. So since 2021, our amount that we have spent on lawsuits and legal expenses, and I'm gonna say the number here, $2,391,571.91. The citizens of Heath need to know that their money is going to sue our fellow communities, one of which we get water from. We have to fix that. I don't care what the reason for doing it was. It is time to settle lawsuits, and that, in addition to the water infrastructure, the roads, we need to fix that.
You say that you're going to hold the line against small lot developments. Well, some of these developers have so much money they can literally bankrupt a city like through lawsuits. So are you saying that you're not willing to stand up to these developers?
Not at all.
Okay.
I'm saying we need to be smart in how we deal with them. The lawsuit that is particularly frustrating to me is a lawsuit over trees where the city of Rockwall put a pipeline in.
Okay.
A sewer pipeline, and they tore down some trees. against our comprehensive plan, against our ordinances. So we sued them. Okay, we sued them. We lost. Then we appealed. We lost again. We appealed again. That doesn't make sense to me when we don't have roads that are drivable, when we don't have water that is safe. I'm not saying there may not be an occasion where we have to defend ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm saying we have to be smart about it. Yeah. And our job is not to pad the pockets of Dallas lawyers.
Right.
Our job is to take care of our citizens.
Sure.
And so we need to make good decisions when it comes to the battles that we fight.
You've talked about water a lot, and that's obviously a key issue for so many people.
Sure.
What do you see is coming along? And I'm sorry I didn't ask the question. I probably should have.
No worries.
What do you think the solution is going to be?
So I've learned a lot about water,
Yeah.
more than I ever thought I would. And I've talked to current city councilmen that have gone to other communities who have water problems. And part of our solution, and actually they did a beautiful blue letter the city did a beautiful blue outline of what the solution is. And I'm supportive of this plan. And it is to build storage.
Oh, okay.
It is to drill 5 wells. It is to negotiate settlements with lawsuits. I also have done my own research and talking to some people who deal with water a lot. One gentleman said, have we looked into a reservoir? And I did some research on the reservoir. Not a good plan for us because it takes 50 years to fill that.
Yeah, it does.
For the future, I mean,
right.
we can plan for our children and for their future. But another thing is there are federal grants available for infrastructure. Have we investigated that? So I think we have to be creative, and we have to have people that really want to do the research to solve the problem. And I want to do it. I want to be part of something that could help so many people. And so, yeah.
Since we're on water, let's, I think that one of the concerns of Heath residents in particular is their green lawns. So,
yeah.
So what is, I mean, obviously there's the conservationists who just are complete wackos, and there's people who are silly with the way they with the lack of concern they have for conservation of anything. Yeah. I mean, do you see anything happening as far as ordinances and things like that along those lines?
So what the city of Heath is doing now is they're providing education courses on native plants. And I think that's important. I think, we need a communication strategy with the citizens. A Facebook post is probably not the most efficient way to do it. We need to figure out ways to get the message to all of the citizens. I meet people at the doors, they're like, I don't do Facebook. I don't know, what's going on. Yeah. And so we have to figure out a way to reach all the citizens and educate them. Because I think most people, after losing 6 palm trees, will go, oh, yeah, okay, maybe palm trees aren't the best solution for Heath. I know I have a plant that I love that is got, and I'm not a green thumb, but it's got beautiful flowers and it's tropical, and I plant them every year and they die every single year. But I go to the Lowe's clearance aisle and I buy them because I love that plant, and I've accepted the fact that that's an expense on me. But I think some people don't know. They don't know. They move to this area. They don't know what's native. We've had a lot of people moving from California.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're trying to plant palm trees, and we love them, but they're just not practical. So we have to be more transparent. We have to communicate better, and we have to let people know that we care about them and that we want to work towards a solution together.
Very good. Lee, how about you?
I think it's the enhancing our open spaces that we have. I'm super excited about what's about to happen in our city park. I definitely think the paths coming in through more of our communities so that people who live in Heath have a chance to explore all of Heath safely. Our water resources, of course, that's an essential piece of this. We're laying the groundwork now to continue to solve that. I think there's some exciting things happening with our head of public works right now, with Brian Krieg coming in, and him, us being able to potentially utilize the aquifer that's 3,000 feet below us right now. And, just there's exciting ideas even being brought forth by our community about what we could potentially do with water. We had a resident living out in the Heath Golf and Yacht Club who had done some experimental water savings and conservation with the actual golf course out there, and they saw some results. And I met him at a city council meeting where he actually brought this to the table recently, and I called him after and I said, hey, if you need houses to be a guinea pig for what this solution might look like, come over. And I'm excited about the community having those types of thoughts and ideas from residents. I think it's all valid, especially when it comes to our water situation. The other piece that I plan to address is we just put in the new ordinance for the comprehensive plan to have those distinct housing styles now that are within a 1 mile radius instead of a number of feet. And I think that's going to help add to like the distinct look and feel and bedroom style community of Heath that we all kind of come to love and enjoy. And while we came here, kind of maintaining that, which I think is huge. And then I think just bringing in some interesting businesses, like I was saying before, that want us to stay in Heath. We go out on a Friday night, we want to stay in Heath, or a Saturday afternoon, we want to, do something with our kids, or, just have a place to go grab coffee or something with a neighbor. We're able to keep it more in Heath and give those types of places a chance to thrive. I'm not saying put McDonald's and Taco Bell and Jack in the Box all along anywhere. That's not the kind of growth, but it's like these distinct businesses that are unique to Heath and kind of keep our unique quality of city that we've all come to love and enjoy.
So I get the impression that you're not going to fight Rockwall to get to steal IKEA under them and bring it over to Heath. You're not going to do that?
Would rather IKEA not be my neighbor.
Yeah.
I'll get in the car and drive if I need to go to IKEA.
Yeah, get ready. It's coming. Not to Heath. Not to Heath.
Not to Heath.
Not to Heath. Well, now is your chance to tell voters why you are the best choice to be their representative on the Heath City Council. So, Lee, take it away.
I am your neighbor. I am not a politician. I'm a wife and a mom and an active member of the community. I'm a church member, and I have been involved in our community and our organization since I moved here 7 years ago. And I'm really all about protecting what makes Heath special. It's why I moved here. It's why I first got involved in my school and in my church and down at the city to attend meetings and learn about what's going on around me, both with my neighbors and with businesses and in the parks. And so that's why I'm here. That's why I'm running. Maintain the integrity of Heath. I've witnessed firsthand how powerful our collective voices can be when your neighbors stand up together and start to share how they feel about being here and the vision for maintaining Heath and the community they came to love. And I'm just excited to continue to be a part of that and use my voice.
Cindy Horne, take it away.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Bob, for having me on your show. It's been great to talk to the citizens of Heath. And I will just let you know that for far too long, our city council has hidden behind closed doors and made decisions that I don't believe are in the best interest of the citizens. I commit to you to be your voice, to be transparent, and to do so with a servant's heart. I would ask that I get your vote on May 3rd. My name is Cindy Horne. I'm running for Heath City Council, Place 1. You can find me on Facebook at Cindy for Heath. Thank you so much.
Well, as you can tell, both candidates truly desire to earn your vote. If you have more questions of them or wish to know more about their campaigns, I posted links to their websites and or Facebook pages in the description of today's show. Early voting begins on Monday, April 22nd and goes through Tuesday, April 29th, with the Election Day on Saturday, May 3rd. You're watching this because you want to be an informed voter, so be sure to share the link to this program with your friends and neighbors who can vote in this race. So until next time, I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, looking forward to seeing you at the polls. Blessings.